Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to In the Know with CaT Bobino. Today, my extra special guest is Dr. Jeanette Davis, who is a marine microbiologist, an author, a speaker, and so much more. Welcome to the show, Dr. Davis.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So, as I just mentioned, you've got so many things under your plate. Where would you like to start? You want to start with being a marine microbiologist and what that is?
Sure. We can start there. So marine microbiologist is basically a fancy way of saying that I study the things in the ocean that you can't see without a microscope. So really small organisms in the ocean. Particularly, I work on marine bacteria. And they're really important because they help with like food cycling in the ocean environment. They also help produce some of the oxygen that we breathe. So a lot of people don't know, like every other breath you take, you can thank the microbes or the bacteria in the ocean for helping to generate an oxygenated environment. So they're really important to study and understand. And my focus on them is marine drug discovery. So when we're sick and we need medicines, the ocean is also a really big source of marine drugs and marine medicines, in particular bacteria in the ocean. So that's one of the reasons why I study them. But yeah, they're really important. And so I study the things in the ocean that you can't see without a microscope. That's marine microbiology in a nutshell.
Well, that's awesome. So, how did you discover marine microbiology, or how did that become your field, your passion?
I actually I grew up loving science, and I could never really articulate that I wanted to be a scientist because it wasn't really a known path for me, or I didn't see a lot of people who were scientists, not just who looked like me, but just generally. And
Mhm,
so I thought, I love science, so I'll be a medical doctor,
mhm,
because
mhm.
if you love science, you go into medicine. um,
Right, right.
but I went to Hampton University for undergrad, and they had a marine science department. And up until I went to Hampton, I didn't consider marine science. I at that time thought I would major in chemistry, which at the time was my favorite science, and that I would go into medical school. But Hampton had, we call it new student orientation week, where it's just freshmen kind of getting acclimated to the campus. And I was there trying to, figure out what major I was going to declare and checking out like different science departments. And then I literally looked down on the water because Hampton is located on the Hampton River. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh, they have marine science. And I walked into the department and really just fell in love with it and learned that to study the ocean is to study a variety of sciences. So it was a lot of like chemistry, which I loved, and physics and biology. But then I was introduced to these cool and interesting sciences like meteorology, which is connected to the ocean, botany, because there's a lot of plant life in the ocean, zoology, all of the ologies. Basically, the ocean is like all the ologies in one. And
Mhm.
so that's kind of how I got started. It really was like I don't know if I hadn't gone to Hampton, I'm not sure if I would have picked marine biology. I probably would have done chemistry and become a medical doctor. Which I'm grateful that I took a different path because I am more like research oriented. Um, but
Mhm.
yeah, that's how I got my start. I literally, went to Hampton, discovered it, and fell in love with it, and from there just kind of stuck with it. Did interns every summer while I was there, and eventually interned in the lab where I got my PhD in marine microbiology. And the great thing about that is through all the research and interns and things that I was introduced to, I learned that I could combine my newfound love for the ocean with medicine, which is essentially, I got a PhD in marine microbiology, focusing on marine drug discovery. So that's kind of how I got started.
Wow. I mean, that's cool. That's a lot. So did you stay at Hampton the entire time?
No. So for undergrad, I was at Hampton University, and then for my PhD, I went to University of Maryland.
Gotcha.
So all of my research was um, in Baltimore. Like, so the physical location of my university was in Baltimore, but my field research was in Hawaii. So I traveled to
Ooh.
Hawaii quite a bit. I don't even remember how many times I've been there because I went so frequently to kind of do the field work and the collection of the samples that I needed. So I like to say that, like, my PhD literally comes from University of Maryland, but University of Hawaii is kind of like my I guess my second school where where I did a lot of my research and field work and would spend quite a bit of time there after collecting samples. I would finish up my research at the Hawaiian Institute of Marine Biology. So I attended both of those schools, but technically my degree comes from University of Maryland.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's an amazing pathway and journey. And one of the things people don't think about is schools talk to each other. We work
Yeah.
with each other, and just because you're going to one school doesn't mean you don't have an opportunity somewhere else, especially in
Yes.
your field, you know.
Absolutely.
And that's cool. And
Absolutely.
I'm absolutely going to shout out Hampton and HBCU. This is a
Oh, Hampton.
HBCU podcast. So yes,
Yes. I
yes.
got on my Hampton shirt.
I need to get my Stillman College shirts. I'm gonna work on it. I have to hit up my people in Alabama to get that. But I mean, yes, that's amazing, and congratulations on all of that. And I've actually never been to Hawaii. And I'm in California. I really need to go.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
I know.
absolutely. I mean, it's a part of the United States, but
Hmm.
it is so, because of the distance, and it's, not connected to the mainland of, the US. It seems so foreign to people, and I totally get it. I totally get it. But it is it's so beautiful, and there's just so much, like, rich culture and heritage and
Hmm.
history there, and they by far have the best pineapple you will ever eat.
Yes.
And the beaches, the mountains, I mean, and it's also just, I mean, beyond marine biology, because there's so much beautiful life there. It's also an
Mhm.
interesting place for, like, just to study of weather and meteorology, because you could
Yes.
be,
Yes.
like, literally going through a mountain and you can see, like, the sunshine and the clear, the clarity and all of this, and on one segment, and then look on the other side of the mountain and it's rainy and it's cloudy, and it's just really interesting, like, just what happens in the atmosphere when you're at the peak of a mountain versus the low of a mountain, and what that looks like.
Hmm.
So it's really fascinating. I love driving, like, through the mountains there. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. One of my favorite places to go. And it's been a few years since I've been there, but plan to go back at some point.
That's awesome. Yes, and with the pandemic, tickets have been so cheap. I don't know. Well, I do know. I have a 1-year-old, so where am I going right now? Because I've had people like, you could take him with you. I'm not bringing sand to the beach. I'm gonna go by myself. Like,
I totally get it. I totally get it. Well, whenever you're ready someday, it is absolutely a gorgeous and beautiful place to visit.
that's awesome. Well, thank you. So yeah, I'm on your page right now, and we have you known as Dr. Ocean. How did you get that name?
Yeah. So, honestly, it started as just a social media handle.
Mm.
I am actually pretty late to social media, for most people, I guess, in my generation. I've been on Twitter now for a little over a year. Maybe a year and a half or so. And then I got on Instagram. It's been about 3 years now. which
Mhm.
most people are like, what?
Or where have you
So so when I decided to kind of I guess become more vocal about being a marine biologist and sharing my journey as a marine biologist, I became more engaged in social media and decided to get in on social media. And so I wanted a handle that was, kind of indicative of who I am and what I do. And so I was like, yeah, Dr. Ocean is fitting because I'm gonna share my journey as a marine biologist. And I also noticed, like, when I tell people I'm a marine biologist or a marine microbiologist,
Mhm.
um, they can enter the chat from a broad spectrum of like thoughts and ideas of what they think that is. And even when I went into the field of marine science and people were like, well, what's that? Or what do you do with that? And, it was everything from associating with like the actual Marine Corps to like, ocean or like battle or like dolphins, whales, it's just a gamut of things that come to mind. But when you hear the word ocean, on the other hand, there's pretty much a universal thought around the ocean as opposed to marine, even though they're synonymous, right? Like
Right.
marine means ocean or salt water.
Right.
But not everyone necessarily connects with marine the way they do ocean. And so it was a way of me kind of like simplifying what I do and, making science accessible to people. So it started like that, but it has carried me beyond a social media handle.
Right.
And, that's what people call me now. And that's how, when I'm doing speaking engagements, I'm referred to as Dr. Ocean. And, even on my children's science book, referred to as Dr. Ocean and those things. So I love the name. It's catchy and I'm embracing it.
I love it. I love it. And that's so amazing. And as you spoke about your book is Science is Everywhere, Science is for Everyone. What made you write that book?
um, motivate young people to get involved in science and to give them that language, so that they can grow up saying, like, I want to be a scientist, I want to be a botanist, I want to be an oceanographer, I want to be a zoologist, or, I want to be a geologist. Like, I love mountains and rocks. I want to be a physicist. I want to be an
Yeah.
astronaut. So it's so many different sciences that are highlighted that gives young people like that language to discuss science and feel inspired by science.
Okay, well, I don't know if maybe it didn't happen on your end, but we had a like a pause in art on my end, so I'm not sure if everything was captured, but I'm going to go with the fact that you wrote the book for students to be open to the idea of science, right?
Yes, I wrote, and it was a bit of a lag on my end, but when I see those things, I keep going because I don't know if it's just me or if people are listening to me. So, but yeah,
Right.
science is everywhere, science is everyone is literally written to amplify the title, to connect young people with the science that is all around them, give them the language of science. So I was saying, like, for a young person who loves the zoo, like kids love animals, well, now they get to know that if they love animals, they can be zoologists because the
Mhm.
study of animals is zoology. Or if you like plants, then you can be a botanist. And or if you like the ocean, you can be an oceanographer. So it
Mhm.
gives young people the actual language of science that they encounter every day, but does it in a fun and inclusive way. So it's different races, different genders, as well as religion, and all of these things that hopefully will inspire young people to pursue science in an inclusive way and let them know that it's available to everyone.
That's awesome. All right. I am going to share my screen for a second just so that people can get an idea of your book. And of course, now it doesn't want to share. I think my computer is there. It is. All right. So, science is everywhere, science is for everyone. You can find, where can you find the book? I'll ask you, Dr. Davis.
Yeah, and actually, since you're there, if you go on the book tab, um,
Go back up.
I recently published another book that
Ooh.
focuses exclusively on oceanography, and that's Jada's Journey Under the Sea, which you guys can see there. So, Science is Everywhere, Science is Everyone introduces lots of sciences. And now I am focusing on those particular sciences, and oceanography or marine science. Obviously, it was like the first one because I'm a marine scientist. But in
Right.
Jada's Journey Under the Sea, she takes this journey under the sea, and you're introduced to the life under the ocean, as well as the benefits of the ocean and how we're connected to it. But unfortunately, Jada also discovers some other things under the sea that shouldn't be there. And so it's also a way of giving young people and actually everyone tools to help better, protect our ocean and what how we can all be more involved in making sure that we have a healthy ocean environment. So that's Jada's Journey Under the Sea. In all of my books, you can find them on my website at www.drjeanettedavis.com. That's JeanetteDavis.com. But a simplified version of that, you can also go to www.drocean.science. Both of them will take you to the website. And if you go there, you can click the button to get an autographed copy from me. And they're also available online at Amazon, Target, Walmart, Barnes and Nobles, Books a Million. But if you go to my website, you can get autographed copies or be directed to another website to order them from.
Oh, awesome. That's amazing. So you have a quite a few more books up your sleeve.
Yes, I do. And if you scroll down a bit, yeah, if you keep going, this is go back up.
Oh, oh,
So yes. So, Science is Everywhere, Science is for Everyone, I recently released in Spanish. So,
mm,
that's another way of me, being inclusive with sciences. So, it's also in Spanish now. You can get that off of my website as well. So, I have Science is Everywhere, Science is for Everyone in both English and Spanish, and recently published Jada's Journey Under the Sea.
awesome. That is amazing. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yes. And I see, you know, looking at this, checking this out, that you are also a keynote speaker. So how did you
Yes.
get into that as Dr. Ocean from being a scientist to being a speaker?
Yeah. So that's a really good question because scientists traditionally, like we are trained to, communicate our science in a very specific way to other scientists, right? And so
Right.
most of the time when we are engaging in, speaking, it is about our science to other scientists who are interested in the work that we're doing. And
Absolutely.
for me, I do a lot of those types of speaking engagements, but it was also important for me to communicate the importance of science to non-scientific audiences. So I kind of started on the path of speaking to encourage people to be more involved in science. And I give several keynotes around, um, again, connecting people with science and why that is important. I do
Mhm.
trainings and workshops, in particular with educators and different like corporations around diversifying science and what that could look like, and the importance of diversity not just being age, race, or gender, but also different types of sciences. How, when we look at global issues like climate change, extreme weather events, and you know, uh, all the major things that kind of impact our day to day lives, sea level rise, all of these things that we need to kind of solve collectively as a society. It requires lots of different expertise. Technical science as well as social science.
Mhm.
So my speaking is really about broadening, I would say, our definition of science and really getting
Absolutely.
back to it being fundamentally knowledge. So also incorporating indigenous knowledge. So yeah,
Mhm.
my speaking engagements are really around the science that I've done, but how to, as scientists, take our work and make that more accessible to the public, and how we can encourage other people to be more involved in science and decision making.
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, that's part of the reason why I do the podcast, is not only to show the diversity within science, tech, engineering, and math, but to show that the pathway is not linear. Everyone has ups, downs, everyone goes in a circle, so to speak, and that science is everywhere. You
Yes.
know, one of the things when I was doing speaking, especially with kids or families, is if you like to cook, then you like chemistry. All you're doing is changing
There
from
you
one form
go.
to another with with a catalyst, which is heat.
Absolutely.
And sometimes you can see that person or that kid's mind like, oh, I guess that is science. It's like, yeah, it's every
Yes.
day and it's everywhere.
Yeah, in the book Science is Everywhere, Science is for Everyone, that's how I describe chemistry. And
Mhm.
their kids cooking.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, that's chemistry. So yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Like that, it's making that connection. And I also think like we also tend, what I found in the field of science is that, while science is a very complex and abstract, way of thinking and processing and problem solving and results driven, all of those things, it can also just be simple, like cooking,
Mhm.
right? Like,
Right.
and we tend to only talk about science in this way of like complexity and nuances. And because of that, we have kind of centered it to be something that is just for an elite group of people to discuss or be a part of. But it's like, no, everybody's a part of science all the time, and we need to
Mhm.
like talk more about how our everyday lives is really science and being a part of that. And I think, again, when people feel more connected to it, then they're more likely to make better decisions about themselves and about their environment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that concept. And it's one of those things where I always say, you like money, then you like math. I don't
Yes.
understand if you can tell me all the statistics of a baseball player, you're doing statistics.
Yeah,
So
exactly. If
an
you like to
everyday
breathe, you like science.
exactly. Exactly. And it's not far fetched. It's not something that you cannot do or,
Mhm.
it's above your head. Everyone's afraid of the education behind it, the length of
Mhm.
time. And, time is going to happen. 4 years
Yeah,
is going to happen. You could do 4 years doing one thing, or you could do it 4 years going to school. It's just 4 years is going
exactly.
to happen.
Exactly.
So
Absolutely.
I love it. I love that idea. And I'm gonna go back to marine biology because that was something I was kind of interested in as a kid. Um, but my thing to this day, it's still a bucket list thing, is to be on a research boat and see a blue whale in its natural habitat, of course, because nowhere else is going to be, it's too big. But to see a blue whale out in the ocean, and just the sheer magnitude of that animal is amazing to me.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's so interesting too because I often hear for those who, a lot of people approach me like, I wanted to be a marine biologist, right? And I hear that more often from people who uh, are not currently marine biologists than those who are marine biologists.
Yeah,
It's really interesting. And there are a lot of marine biologists who knew like this is what I wanted to do, and so I'm just going to pursue it. But I think in particular for people of color, a lot of us were just not exposed to that as
mm,
a career path or even as a science. We may have had a connection with the beach or fishing or something like that, but not necessarily seeing that as a profession or a career path. And so I just think it's really interesting that a lot of people will say, like, I wanted to do that, but a lot of marine biologists are like, yeah, I just kind of
kind of
stumbled
fell
upon it.
into it. Yeah.
I just kind of fell into it. But speaking of being on research vessels, my very first internship at Hampton University, they had this at sea program, and my first internship, 19 years old, I lived on a boat for a month. And
Ooh.
it was absolutely life changing. We sailed the Chesapeake Bay. So we learned how to sail. We went to various institutions along the Chesapeake Bay, one of which happened to be where I got my PhD. I actually met my PhD advisor as a freshman. Um, we learned about the contributions of Native Americans and African Americans
Mhm.
to the Bay and their contributions to ocean science. We also did research. It was phenomenal and it was intense, but it was absolutely life changing. And I was 19 years old at that time thinking, okay, well, I didn't major in chemistry to go to medical school. I'll just major in marine science to go to medical school. But once I did that internship, I was like, no, this is it. Like this is where I'm staying. So there is something really special about being out at sea. That was my first time out at sea in 2019, and that was on a 53-foot sailboat. Um,
Mhm.
in 2019, I don't even remember the size of this vessel. It was massive, but I did like an 18 consecutive day out at sea. And unlike the first time, we would always pull in somewhere and dock, so we would
No.
see
Okay.
land.
Yeah.
We would live on the boat, go out, but we would dock somewhere, and we would see land every day. This was the time where I saw no land. Like once I was out, I didn't see land for weeks. And I did a transect where we did sampling. Actually, the research was to sample the entire West Coast, including Canada. So we partner with Canada to do Canadian waters, and we call them legs. And so there's
Yeah.
like 4 legs, and I did one of the legs, and I did the state of Washington and Oregon, and that was 18 consecutive days. And there was just something really humbling and inspiring about being out at sea. Saw lots of whales. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it was so beautiful, and I'm just like, wow, to like not to be surrounded by water for so
Mm-hmm.
long is really it really is empowering. I feel like I always get like a certain level of clarity when I'm out at sea. It is hard work. I think this last one I did was like, yeah, I'm getting old. Like this is this is intense. It's very different from being 19. Um,
Right.
lots of work, but I always, when I get back on land, it's like always feel like, yeah, I'm ready to go. It's like my adrenaline rush, like my reset, my recalibration, just become very clear about like what I want to do, what I want to pursue. And that was, right after that was like the next year, I published my first children's science book. Um, so yeah, it's really like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's
No,
really
I totally understand. I mean, I'm gonna take this moment to thank everyone who's following along, watching on Facebook, because we are currently live on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you, Dr. Jeanette Davis, aka Dr. Ocean, for joining me today. And if you have any comments or questions, please put them in the chat. I do see one from Deshaun saying people can have 4 years of progress or 4 years of excuses. That's
there
very
you
true.
go.
Very
Very
true.
true.
But speaking on Dr. Davis and your adventures, yeah, I another part of what I really want to do is bring the idea of science and programs and what's even out there already to the forefront, especially for kids of color, to
Mhm.
go out and do this. And so I don't know if you've heard of STEM C's program. But I think it's through Columbia and the University of Pennsylvania. But basically, those legs that you were talking about on your trips, they have to do transit in between the science parties. So, let's say
Oh,
you're doing your party is in Washington, but the next party is going to be down in San Diego. So they got to move the boat to San Diego. During
wow.
that time, they take students out for free. STEM Seas pays for it. They fly the kids there, and those kids get to live on the boat and see what it's like to work and maybe meet scientists if scientists are doing the transit too. And so I've gone out twice with them, once in 2019, once last year. But it's amazing because it's 18, 19, 20 year olds, and you're seeing a lot of them on boats for the first time. They are getting this like, whoa, all the animals at sea, and we don't see land. Like we are
Yeah,
the whole week
yeah.
we are in the water, and just to their amazement of it is awesome. And I went the traditional biology route, but that gave me an opportunity to see what it's like to do oceanography or marine biology and to live on that boat. And I'd be like, don't knock the food because they get these like sublime chefs from who knows what
Oh
who know how
yeah,
to
that's
cook.
that's a good point. That's a good point. Like the chef on the boats be, yeah, they be with it. Like that's one thing. Like it takes a lot to run a boat, and when you have people doing research, you want to keep them happy. And so it is a lot of
Mhm.
effort and work into having good food and good chefs. That is very true. In fact, when I was out in the last leg I did in Washington, Oregon, we would catch like fish. We would catch fish, and it is nothing like having fresh fish in the in
Mhm.
the ocean, and like having an amazing chef. So yeah, like anyway, I just want to second the food is good. The only thing for me that I did miss is because you don't have fresh produce. So it's like having
Yeah.
fresh greens and things like that. After a while, it's like, oh man, my body just needs some kale. But but outside of that, yeah, it is pretty good cooking.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's I think even me on my first transit in 2019 was like, what? You wake up in the morning, your first day on a boat, and I'm outside of that, I'm just surprised that they can cook when the boat's doing this. I'm just trying
Yeah.
to walk, but they done cooked and everything, so
Yeah.
they're amazing.
Yes.
But yeah, I see you, Yolanda. Thank you. I put the name of her book in there. It's called Science is Everywhere, Science is for Everyone. And she has another one. Let me see. What is it
Jada's
called again?
Journey Under the Sea.
There it is. My
And you
computer is
can,
slower than you.
no, it's okay. And you can go on my website, Dr. just drocean.science, www.drocean.science, which will list all of my children's science books there.
Yes, yes. So I actually, as I am looking at your page and all the things that you have done, you've been recognized on so many different platforms. How does that feel? How did you get into being seen on Essence, Black Enterprise, Marvel? Oh yeah, you need to talk about Marvel.
Well, I signed an NDA, so it's
Oh,
very it's limited to what I can say about Marvel at this point. But I do consulting, so I have done some consulting work for Marvel. That's as much as I can say.
gotcha.
Um, and for Essence, Enterprise, Black Enterprise, and other magazines, it's really been an honor to be recognized for like my contributions to marine science and some of these prominent Black magazines.
Hmm.
And I actually, in undergrad, I had a scholarship and applied for like it was like a scholarship slash competition, a Honda Diversity Scholarship, and they were looking for marine biologists, and I applied for it. And a part of the like being a part of this fellowship slash scholarship is that I got a feature in a magazine, and they like flew me out to California. I think that's the first time I had been to California. And I took a photo shoot in the Long Beach Aquarium, and they named me the next great marine biologist. So it was such an honor to be a part of that. So yeah, that to me that is definitely like one of the highlights of my career to be featured there. So yeah, forever grateful to have been featured there and just be a part of like this movement of really showing Black people in a different light and all of our many talents and contributions to society. So yeah, definitely like one of my top 5 best moments of my life.
That's awesome. That is amazing. Congratulations. I love it. So, man, I don't even know what to say after that. That's just like, that's awesome. But whew, as we start to calm it down, so can you tell us what are you working on now? What is Dr. Jeanette Davis doing right now?
So right now I am I say I have a 9 to 5. My 9 to 5 is I'm an ocean policy advisor, and I have kind of walked this fine line between being a research scientist and being more in a policy role or advising role. And that essentially means that I work with, people and government, and that's whether that's like leadership or Congress. I've spent time talking to Congress about the importance of our ocean and investments
Mhm.
in our ocean. Um, and so really playing a role in like taking the science that I've done and understanding like the research science and helping decision makers make good decisions about the ocean and our ocean resources. So that's pretty much my 9 to 5 is I've stepped away from doing as much science and more talking about science and
Mhm.
helping non-scientists understand the importance of science. So, I'm doing that. I'm, continuing to author children's science literature, speaking engagements. I recently founded a nonprofit, me and 6 other members. It's called
Mm.
Black and Marine Science, an amazing organization that is really centered around one, celebrating Black people in marine science, cultivating like the next scientific thought leaders, and also spreading environmental awareness. So I want to give a plug out for Black and Marine Science. The website is www.blackandmarinescience.org. And we are doing great things to really create a safe space for people like myself and other people, and people like you who are, who had like an interest in marine biology. We really do kind of create these spaces for people of color to fill out the field of marine science. There you go. It's up on the website.
Mm.
And you can become a member and a part of the community. You can donate. And it's really just, it's a great organization, again, designed to kind of create these safe spaces for people of color. So I'm really proud to be a co-founder and really, help cultivate the next generation of Black people in marine science. So I'm doing that, and I've started doing consulting. We talked about Marvel a little bit. I signed an NDA,
Mhm.
so I can't tell you everything, but that's really
Right.
exciting. And doing some consulting work for other firms. So a lot going on for me, and
That's good.
yeah, yeah, you can expect a lot more coming.
I am all about connections, and you already got a lot on your plate. I'm looking at this website. I'm gonna check out this website more. Make sure I share that on my social media. But I do love the Black woman in diving gear, which
Yeah.
reminds me of a group that's actually nationwide called NABS, National Association of Black Scuba Divers,
Yeah.
which is really cool. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. Don't know if you ever want to work with them, something like
Yeah,
that.
so we've done, yeah, so we are really expanding as an organization. I'm, taking more of a role on the board and strategic vision and planning of the organization, but we have lots of members who do the day-to-day work. And yes,
Hmm.
we've connected with all of those organizations, partnerships. And so, yeah, I'm really proud of like just what it's becoming. It's a little over a year old now, and we've been able to do so much and build so many partnerships. So yeah, more to come, and follow
Yeah.
us on Instagram and Twitter. And yeah, and there's the website there, blackandmarinescience.org.
Yes, and also Miss Minorities in Shark Science.
Yes, yes. I call Miss like our sister nonprofit. Um, but yeah, Miss is dope. I know the women who founded Miss. It's
Mhm.
such a small community. So like it's interesting because Black and Marine Science was being developed around the same time as Miss. Also around the same time as, I don't know if you've heard of Gweens. I think I definitely want to connect you with some women there. They would be amazing for your podcast. But it's Black women and evolution, ecology, and marine sciences. Dope organization. So we have BWEAMS. There's also Minorities in Aquaculture Science, which is founded by an amazing woman, Imani. Imani's last name is escaping me. But then there's also Latin in marine science. Like there's so many different uh,
Mhm.
nonprofits, which I'm so excited and proud of, because it really is about us kind of creating safe spaces for ourselves and fortifying each other, and making sure that we're like sharing opportunities with other people, and like no longer waiting to be like recognized or validated,
Mhm.
just like creating the things that we know need to happen to like see the field of science move forward.
Love it. I love it. Yeah, that's I actually have a nonprofit, but it's just me. But I did the paperwork because I was like, I want to do it. But mine's is communications and STEM, and the idea behind it is to showcase all these opportunities that's out there, and showing that there's so many different people in these organizations and these groups, and that kids have an opportunity that I didn't have as a kid, especially with social media and stuff, to find and be a part of all these great programs. And so that's my biggest thing for me. I'm gonna have a booth at our Juneteenth, and I'm gonna have a picture thing with all these little. props that, I can be. I could be a
Yeah.
scientist, I could be a biologist, a botanist, a marine biologist,
Yeah.
whatever, and I really, even before I had my son, I really, it's just, I think kids need to see themselves in
Yes.
these types of sciences and be open to the idea of this is an opportunity that I could do, or this is a
Yes.
field I can go into. But
Yes.
yes, I've had one of the young ladies from Miss on my podcast.
Awesome.
I've have she wasn't on my podcast, but there's a woman out here. She's a physician who's a part of NABS. She's the person who told me about it. So I've had her actually do a program at a school. Now I got you from Black and Marine Science, but you could just send more people, send them all my way. I love
Yeah.
talking to everybody and getting their story out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think too, even going back to like all of these nonprofits that are forming right now and in organizations, it's like telling our own story too, because it's not
Mhm,
it's about telling the story, but also having being in control of the narrative, right? Because there's
mhm,
so much out there about, you know, what it looks like to be Black in the field of science. And most
mhm,
of the time, those narratives are not from actual Black people in science, right? And so I think, again, for us in particular in Black Marine Science, and I think a lot of these organizations is really highlighting the science. Like we're
mhm,
actual scientists, we're actually contributing to the field of science. And I always talk about like, hidden figures with
mhm.
Dr. Katherine Johnson. I mean, yeah, Johnson, and it was an incredible story, but it took so long to be told. And it's like
Right.
we don't have to wait for someone to tell our story. We get to tell our own stories and in our own authenticity and control the narrative of like what happens and what it looks like, what it feels like to be a person of color in the field of science.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, so hopefully, the next generation will see that being interested in chemistry is cool. And
Yes,
you
absolutely.
can, you can go party at your school and still get an education. It's not hard.
Absolutely. Because I did it at Hampton. Absolutely.
Yes, I did it at Sylvan College, and if you really like the subject, it's not that hard. So before I close out and let you go, what is something that you wish you could tell your 12-year-old self?
Ooh,
And where can we see the future of Dr. Davis?
great question. 12-year-old. I mean, 12 is a very particular year. That's like puberty, right? Just hitting puberty.
Mhm.
Um, so I would say, you know, everything is gonna be okay. Like it's
Yeah.
all gonna work itself out. And you don't have to have it figured out. And I think that's 12-year-old Jeanette. That's also present day Jeanette. Like it's such a culture where like you gotta know everything all the time, and this narrative that like, because you're Black, you gotta be faster, you gotta be stronger, you gotta be better, you gotta do
Mhm.
that, you gotta it's just like, yo, live a good life. Like I'm really about, you know, things are like it being in the field of science or any job is work. It is work, and it can be frustrating at times. There's struggles, there's all these things, but everything doesn't have to be hard. And I'm
Right.
learning to take life with ease and joy, and just really relax in the unknown. And to be honest, like that is the foundation of science. Like science
Mhm.
is the backbone that supports curiosity, and I'm learning to just remain curious and calm and be okay. I probably wouldn't have said it that way to my 12-year-old self, but relax. It's gonna be okay. Like you are where you're supposed to be, and no one has it all figured out. And if they said they
Right.
did, they're lying. Like that's just not how life works. There's so many unknowns, but it's actually, you can take pleasure in the unknown. Um, so I would say that, and for the future, Jeanette, the same advice. Relax, girl. You okay? Just, have fun, continue to be passionate, pursue things with joy, pursue your curiosity, um, all of those things. And I think, staying true to that, there's just so much possibility. There's so many things available to me. I mentioned I'm starting to get into consulting more. I think that, in the future, I want to definitely start doing more consulting, more speaking, more, advising. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mention this, but I'm also an adjunct professor at Hampton, as well. I always be repping my Hampton.
What? Okay.
And, I'm looking to take on, be on more student committees, do some more lecturing there, because we're also in this virtual environment now. So it's easier to
Mm-hmm.
like teach remotely. So yeah, all things are possible. That's the thing. That's the beauty of curiosity. Pursue it and you'll be fine.
I love it. Thank you so much for repping your school and repping yourself. I am so, I mean, I feel like I'm older than you. I think I am. So I can say I'm proud of you because and it doesn't sound bad. So yeah, I'm very proud of you and all of the things that you've accomplished. That's amazing.
Thank you. And I'm very proud of you, no matter what age. Just the fact that you are doing what you want to do and creating, like having this platform to make science available to people and highlighting scientists, that's dope. So yeah, I'm proud of you as well.
Awesome. Thank you. You can stay on for just a second. I'm going to close all out and get back to you. But thank you, Dr. Davis, for being a part of In the Know with CaT Bobino today. And thank you, everyone who joined us in the chats. Yolanda, Ushan, Bobby, Deshaun, I see all of you. Thank you for all of your cools and amens, 100s.
Yes,
I love it.
thank you. And I do want to just quickly say, for everyone in the chat, thank you. You can follow me on Twitter at Dr. Ocean 24, and on Instagram at Dr. underscore Ocean 24, and it's just DR. And then my website is drdrocean.science. So please
Yes.
reach out.
Check that all out. I will put that all in the information on my social media. Make sure you like, share, comment, all that good stuff. I appreciate you. Yolanda said you're proud of both of us and Omaha. Yeah, I know you, girl. You coming from Nebraska. I see you. Thanks for joining us. All right, make sure you join me next time. I don't know who my guest is going to be, but you know they're going to be amazing. So thank you, everyone, for joining in and have a good Wednesday.